Well, hello again. It's Whiskey River here, and welcome back to Path of Titans. And today I wanted to go over some of my favorite solo choices. When you're playing solo in Path of Titans, you're at a pretty big disadvantage because mostly it's catered to group play, and there's not really any solo creatures that are any creatures that are much better solo than they would be in a group. So it's kind of hard to choose sometimes. And so these are some of my favorites. Starting off with the Griffin. The Griffin is a great dinosaur to play when you're solo because it's very survivable. It can fly, so you can get away from most things. It's relatively small, so you can hide from most things and get in and out of spaces that some of the bigger dinosaurs can't get in and out of. It's also got good attacks. It's got a claw that does bleed, a regular damage beak. It's got air attacks and ground attacks, and you can set it up to be more deadly in the air, more deadly on the ground. So it's a good, really good, versatile, survivable dinosaur. And you can see in this clip here, I'm fighting two Dracos that attacked me, and I'm holding my own pretty well. And then that's another one that I don't have some clips on, but the Draco, similar to the Griffin. Very good solo pick because you can fly and you can get away. It's also semi-aquatic, so you can use that to survive pretty well as well. So the Draco's another good one. But this one's the Griffin I think I prefer a little bit more than the Draco just because I feel like the Draco's probably harder to use. The Griffin's a bit more easy. It's going to be more user-friendly and beginner-friendly to use than the Draco. But if you practice with the Draco, it can be much better at combat, in the air especially, than the Griffin. But I think as a more beginner-friendly choice, I think the Griffin's a good one. This one here is the Carcharodontosaurus. This is another one of my favorites. It's an apex, so it does good damage, and it's still nimble and quick. You can see this acro came and hunted me when I was growing it back. I was just almost adult, sub-adult at this point, and it wanted to hunt me, and I was just growing in Savannah, and I was able to fight him off here. But this is a good one because it's nimble and it's fast. It does bleed. It's got a knockback tail, and it does really good DPS as well. It also has a dash, so you can quickly dash forward in certain cases where you need to get away or catch up to your prey. It's fast enough to keep up with some of the smaller stuff and tanky enough to duke it out with some of the bigger stuff. So it's a really good choice as a solo playable. The Carcharodontosaurus, one of my favorites. So you can see here it's an apex, and so it's bigger and slower than the sub-apex that I'm chasing here, this acro, but I can still keep up with it. And it's so you can get away from some of the more bigger, deadlier things, harder hitting things, but you can run down some of the stuff that it would otherwise be more quicker and more nimble if you were on something like a Giga or a Rex, for example. So the Carcs are really solid choices as solo playable, in my opinion. Next is the Dominus. I just did another video on the Dominus, dropped that earlier this week, but this is also a great solo pick. You can run in pairs, but if you want to run by yourself, this is one of the ones that I choose when I'm playing alone. Again, just like the Griffin, it can fly. Like the Griffin and the Draco, it can fly, so you can get away from engagements that you might get in over your head on. And you can also, it's very mobile, so you can get to places that you need to get to quickly. You can get in and out of battle quickly. So it's very survivable because of the flight. And it's an apex, or it's a sub titan actually, so it can hit really hard. You can take down some big prey. You can have a lot of fun fights with the Dominus, and so it's one of the reasons I choose this one when I'm playing solo as well. It's very versatile. It's got the tail attack that'll do bleed, keep things from healing or running you down too much. If they're bleeding, they're going to think twice about running so much, and it can keep their combat timer on while you let yours expire to get some of your ambushing perks triggered. and it's got a wing beat that you could use. It's got a stomp. It's got armored wings you can choose, and then it has a really, really deadly bite, and it's got a number of different bites that you can choose from and combinations you can use. So it's very versatile, heavy hitting, and survivable creature, especially since it can fly. So Dominus is a great choice when you're playing solo. Next up is the Madrahorn. This thing is a total beast. It's a Titan class herbivore in Apex Killers. This is all gameplay on the Apex Killers community server, by the way. But they've got the Madrahorn in here, and it is a Titan class, but you can pair up with it. But if you need to play solo, this is a great choice because they are extremely tanky. They do bone break with that trunk hit there, and then they do massive amounts of damage. They've got 2 back kicks if stuff gets behind you. They've got front stomps, and then they've got a huge double front stomp, kind of like the Origins, that will do massive damage and kill just about anything that you can hit with it. It does take stamina to use it, and it's very slow, so you got to be cautious when you're using it because it can leave you vulnerable to attack. But if you land it, you'll win pretty much anything you're fighting. You'll kill it. So this is a great one to play because it's big and tough and tanky, and so I'll hop on these sometimes and see if anybody wants to fight. The downside is that a lot of times there's not many people that want to come fight you when you're on this because it is such a tank. But you do get the challengers from time to time. Like I got this Tyrano here. Really, 2 Tyranos is a huge threat to a Madrahorn. Actually, if they know what they're doing, they take their time, they will probably end up killing you. But if you get a lucky bone break on one and you can stomp it and get a kill, then you've got a fighting chance. And most of the time, the players are going to be going after easier targets because this will be a challenge even for 2 Tyranos. When they do win, they're still near death. So it's a great solo playable choice, the Madrahorn. Sometimes if I just want to chill and I want to challenge, but I don't really want to go running around and searching for fights and go run around hunting, just kind of let the fight come to me, then I'll pick the Madrahorn and hang out on that and see what challenges come my way. So Madrahorn's a great solo choice if you just want to do something like that. I do have a few other really good fights on the Madrahorn. This was just a short one that I could fit into this video without making the video too long, so that's why I included this one here. But I'm going to make another Madrahorn video later that'll be some really good fights on the Madrahorn. They're just kind of long, so I can't put too many in one video. But yeah, that guy realized that I was going to be way too much for him, and so he's forecalling and running off, calling it quits. And that is how a lot of the fights end on the Madrahorn. Next up is the Dino. This is the DB Dino. There's the KTO Dino, which is the little bit smaller Dino. It's a little quicker and smaller. This is the massive DB Dino. You can see there, you can clamp sub-apex creatures with this thing. And just take them into the river and ambush them, and take them into the river and drown them and kill them and get your meal. So if you just want to chill and ambush, it's a lot like Rex gameplay where you hide in the water near the shoreline where things like to come drink, and you can ambush the unsuspecting players out there. Now it's also good on land, actually. A lot of times on Apex Killers you'll see a Dino just sitting out in the salt flats of all places, a land Dino, and they're out there because they want to fight on the Dino, and they know how to fight on land without even using water. Sometimes it can be kind of boring sitting around waiting for things to ambush and play a Dino like it really should be played. So if you want a lot of action, you could go to, in the middle of Grand Plains or in the middle of Salt Flats, and there will be challengers for you out there. And surprisingly, it can really hold its own. It's just a really, really tanky beast that can deal tons and tons of damage. As you can see here, I'm fighting these mapes. On land, don't really know what they were thinking because they're really no match for a Dino even on land. I mean, I could have just went in the water if I wanted to, but yeah, that was an easy fight, as most fights are for the DB Dino. But that's a good choice as a solo playable. And next is the Tyrano Titan. And this is, as you guys probably know, my very favorite dinosaur to play. It's my favorite dinosaur to play, not necessarily creature to play, but it's up there. I think this, the T-Rex, and then the Gugor are probably my three top favorite playables right now, in terms of just general creatures. And depending on the server, this and the T-Rex, when it just comes to dinosaurs, these are definitely my two top picks. But the Tyrano Titan is an apex. It's very big and strong and tanky, and it also does tons of damage, high levels of damage, and it does bleed. It's got a knockback tail. You can use dash and or juke, depending on what kit you want to set up. It's got a lot of tools. You can use the feast ability that'll give you a meat chunk back to heal yourself. So there's really a lot of options, a lot of tools in the toolkit for the Tyrano Titan, and so that makes it a really good solo choice when you're playing by yourself. It's going to be similar to the Carc. The Carc's a little bit more nimble and fast, and the Tyrano Titan does more damage and is tankier. So it really just comes down to a personal preference between the two. The Carc's going to be a little bit harder to use, I think, just because it doesn't have as much health, but they're both really good and similar play styles. Kind of an honorable mention, I guess, would be the Giga. The PT Giga is also another good one. I just don't play the Giga a lot, and so I don't have a lot of experience on it. But if you practice with that one, I think it has a bit of a higher, it takes a little more skill to use the Giga. It's going to take a lot more practice, and it's a little harder to master. But once you do master it, it's a very, very good choice. Like I said, I just don't play the Giga a whole lot, so I didn't have a ton of video for it, but it is also a good choice for a solo playable. I had a lot of experience with the Tyrano Titan on the previous server that I played on, and it's also a new dinosaur to come out, so it's kind of fresh and new, and so that's why I prefer that one over the Giga right now. If you can learn to land its heavy bite and get the bleed going on things, it's really, really a good damage dealer and a good brawler. Just like anything, you're going to have to, worry about the packs of stuff. But like I said, that goes with pretty much anything that you get on. If you want more survivability, then you might be more apt to choose a Griffin or a Draco or something that can fly away. But if you really want to get into some fights and some scuffles and test your abilities, then the Tyrano Titan's a good choice. These can even take on the Dominus, as you can see here. It's always a close fight. Got to really avoid the face tank on it, but if you can get around and get behind them, get some bleed going on them, you can win the fight. Once you get the bleed stacked, it's really hard for them because when they try to fly or run, then the bleed just amplifies greatly, and they'll end up dying over it. And of course you got the PT Rex. This is always going to be my favorite. It's my longtime favorite playable, and it's just got so much going for it. You've got Clamp for the small stuff, you've got Crushing Bite for the medium to sub-apex stuff, and you've got the charge bite for the big stuff. It's got pretty much a bite and an attack for anything, and it does a ton of damage. It's got decent DPS. You're still fairly tanky, even if there's not two of you. And it's elusive and camouflage. They're surprisingly well hidden. Even though they're so big, you can hide in them really well. And they've got the red herring for the dash. They got a tail attack and a kick. I mean, they've just got a lot going for them. And it's a great dinosaur to play if you're playing alone. It just depends on the mood I'm in. Sometimes, you kind of, I like to just do the ambushing on these. I like to hide in bushes like this and ambush stuff, more so than just walk around and be a tough guy. If you want to walk around and be a tough guy, if I'm in that mood and I just want to fight whatever comes at me, then I'm going to choose the Gugor, which is what you see me fighting here. So that brings me to last but not least, probably the number one pick for me for if I'm going to play solo and I just want to go run and have fun and not die and just get into as much trouble as I can, as many fights as I can, and see how long it takes for me to die, and I'll just brawl anything that comes at me. Then I'm going to play the Gugor. You can see here I'm sleeping, and these mapes came and attacked me when I was AFK. And they were doing virtually no damage to me until I stood up. But once I stood up, I can dish out way more damage than they can. So I took a lot of damage when I was standing up, but I just start taking it to them now and giving it right back. And you can see they're getting death scarred already. I am a bit low, but I know I can really just hammer them now at this point and be super aggressive and then get myself into a good spot, and I should easily win this fight. Mapes tend to be, the players that play Mapes tend to be a little overconfident sometimes, I've noticed. They always like to come in and think they're going to do a ton of damage, but they get stuck like this, and they take a lot of damage quickly, actually. And they're really meant to be more of a hit and run bleeder, and so people that kind of come in and tank a little bit too much, like these guys, and they also take fall damage, you're just not going to really fare very well if you play that way, especially against a Gugor. Even one that you catch AFK is probably gonna win the fight. So they end up running off here because they realized that it was not a winning proposition, even though they caught me laying down. This is another fight with a DB acro, and or no, this is the DB acro, and same thing. You know, it's it's also a sub apex, and they're really strong. Actually, they're really strong dinosaurs, but the Gugor is just so tough. You know, George calls this George, the owner of Apex Killer, calls it the honey badgers of Path of Titans, and they really are. I mean, they are like a little honey badger, just super tough and tanky, and not too slow. Do tons of damage. I think they're the only sub-Apex class on Apex Killers that is a group limit of 2. All the rest of them have 3, and that's just because they're so strong. If they had 3, they'd really be unstoppable. So if I just feel like a lot of action and I want to go fight and get into some trouble and see what can take me down, just fight anything that comes my way, then I'll hop on one of these and cruise around and look for some trouble. So that's my selection, guys, for the solo picks in Path of Titans. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your choices are. If you have something I didn't include in the list, I'd love to hear about it. Leave that in the comments below. And thanks for watching, and I do hope to see you out there in Gondua. Goodbye.